So this next part is a little update from the north and the south about what's happening with the tar sands. So I had a great honor some 40 years ago to go and spend the last 40 years in Coast Salish territory. And in that process, met this the really wonderful people of that area. People, salmon people, whose treasure for the salmon, for their water, is the same as this is here, the buffalo. In that process, I got a chance to meet a very wonderful gentleman. His name is Chief Dan George. Meeting him, then I met Chief Leonard George, his son. And then way back there, I met a little boy. His name was Rueben. He was part of that circle there. And here, some years later, after 18 years, and being now the son as well of Chief Leonard Crowdog under his teachings for 18 years at Sundance, he's emerging there in the Northwest and across Canada as one of the great voices of many, many voices that are standing up and really leading this whole movement that's emerging in Canada all over. So at this time, to give an update from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, at one time, just like it was for all of us, they were 15,000 people. By the time the disease was gone, they were down to 13 people. And so I want to ask Ushka to come up. I want Chief Darrell Bob from the Statliam Nation to join you.
ACM, Hoichka CM, Siaya, Chief Skulutstans Snot to Steutu, Chief Yopanan Snot to Sleu to Squamish, Hoichka Chasiam, our relatives, Hoichka Chasiam Munmun, my father, Leonard Crowdog, Hoichka Chasiam Orville and Faith. I'd really like to thank you on behalf of my nation and my people for allowing us to come down to share. We already have a relationship with one another, and it's been going, like Uncle said, for 40 years with my family, for almost 20 years with my father, Leonard Crowdog, with my auntie as well. Thank you for speaking and sharing your words. And my new auntie, I thank you also for your family and the hard work that you have done. You know, our trials and tribulations have been the same. The things that we went through are the same. Our history is the same, pre-contact and before contact. You know, my grandfather and my Uncle Len would talk about a beautiful life of abundance. When I was a child, I remember in the streams where the water was not even a foot deep, and hundreds of salmon would swim up there. It's not like that anymore. And when we said, when the tide would go, the table was set, we'd go out there and harvest clams and oysters. Never went hungry like that. Grown up in poverty and never went hungry like that. But those things are going. I just recently saw a documentary of my grandfather sitting on a beach, and he's talking about the same things that I've been sharing, that he's been teaching. And he said, and this is 1970, I was not even 1 year old, and he said, my children and my grandchildren won't experience what I experienced in these beautiful lands. And I've been saying that about my kids, because they won't see the salmon like I did in the streams behind our house, where hundreds of salmon ran up there, jumping out of their element into the air and just persevering, and all those good lessons that you have about buffalo. We have the same thing about salmon. What buffalo was to you as salmon was to us. And during those times, you know, it was hard. But just like you, what kept us going was our culture and our spirituality. And we had a legend, we had stories that we said when we needed help, we would send out a prayer, and people would come, and they would share and they'll teach. And that's three of my teachers have done that. They came to the West Coast, and they shared and they helped and they taught. They did that for decades. So at this time, I'd like to link it. My father Leonard Crodog, for all the good work that you do, not only with my nation of people and the Coast Salish territory, the people of British Columbia, and I know how you touched them and uplifted them. And I thank you for that good work that you do, and we're always sending you blessings, and we're always sending you prayers. My mom's too old to travel down here, but she sundanced at Crodog's. She's an elder, and she went and sundanced. And she cries every time I leave because she knows her spirit still calls her to those trees that we pray to. So my family would like to blanket you, my dad, and continue to thank you for the continuing teachings that you give us all, and the love that you give us all, unconditional. So thank you, my dad. There's some cedar from the tree behind our house. Orville, on behalf of my brother here, you've been the same as my dad's been to me. You've been the same to my brother. And it's such a momentous, beautiful thing to have, to me, two iconic spiritual leaders come together and sit like this for a common cause. For a common cause. Our nations of where my dad's from, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh, we never got along. Even in my lifetime, we'd duke it out. We would duke it out. But we got together this year, and we said, no more destruction to our sacred. We paddled together in one canoe, and we're strong as the weakest one in there, and we paddled together, and we did that as one nation. And this is what it felt like to me by having our two spiritual leaders come together that are known worldwide, and it's starting right here in your beautiful traditional territory. So my brother would like to blanket you too, Uncle. And thank you for the good, strong, beautiful work that you've been doing.